Minister, by any standard, the students who enter into higher education in the year 2020 are going to suffer a very greatly diminished student experience. Now, against that background, I think it is completely unjustifiable that we would charge students the highest student contribution fee in Europe. Indeed, I believe it is completely unjustifiable to charge them anything at all. But to charge them $3,000 a year when their ability to get part-time work, their families' incomes may have been hit, and they are going to suffer a diminished student experience is unacceptable, and you should abolish or dramatically reduce those fees.
Deputy Boyd Barrett's views in relation to this, and I do want to tell the Deputy that I do intend to address the funding for higher education that's been avoided by many for years. I do think the chance of this new department, new government, does provide that opportunity. Issues in relation to the registration fee are decided through the budgetary year, but I have taken, and I do hope you acknowledge this, I have taken a number of measures to try and target additional resources to students in terms of meeting the costs that they face. So the doubling of the Student Assistance Fund, which, by the way, I think by any measure is a progressive measure, doubling it from 8 million a year to 16 million euro a year, putting in for the first time a dedicated technology fund to purchase 17,000 laptops for our students, increasing the mental health supports by 5 million euro, a further 3 million on the budget day announcement as well. And this Oireachtas was asked to look at the whole issue of the Cassell's report. This Oireachtas, or the last one rather, did decide to ask for an economic evaluation of all the options. That work is due to be concluded at the start of 2021, and I will act on their findings. I don't believe that we should go down the route of levelling students with lots and lots of debt as they start out, and I'm not convinced that the student loan model works either. So I think more Exchequer funding is the general direction of travel. We have increased Exchequer funding from 1.4 billion in 2015 to 1.8 billion in 2018. The cost of providing education will be higher this year. We know that in a COVID world where you have to have fewer people on campus, different way of doing things, IT licenses and all that. The cost will go up. We're not increasing the student contribution fee. I'd like to see it reduced over the lifetime of the government. There is a budget next month, and in the meantime we're directing a lot of extra resources targeting students most in need.
Germany, Iceland, France, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Slovenia and the Czech Republic, no student contribution fees. Spain, a country that was hammered by austerity, annual student contribution fee €500. Yet we're charging 3,000. And now we're going to be charging that for a hugely diminished third-level experience for the class of 2020. So any additional funding, Minister, is welcome. But you see, the key metric is funding per student. Per student. And under Fine Gael, various Fine Gael governments, that has dropped by 43%. Because the numbers in higher education are going up. They have doubled since 2000, and there's another 40,000 projected additional in higher education over the next decade. So the actual funding per student has crashed. And if you want to know why there's a mental health difficulty, at least part of the answer is because of the enormous stress and pressure, financial and otherwise, put on students because of the chronic underfunding of higher education.
Minister, I'm anxious that everybody gets in.
So I'll be brief too. I think we both agree on the need to increase funding for higher education. Let's be honest though, about 80% of the higher education budget is going on fixed staff costs, and that's right and proper, and you'd be the first to tell me if that wasn't being addressed. So we can't pretend the cost of providing the education system this year is decreasing. What we can do, in fact it's increasing, what we can do though is look at ways of supporting, and one of the things that is never said in these debates is that 44% of students in Ireland have their student contribution fee in full or in part paid for through the Exchequer. So not every student is paying the student contribution fee. 44% of people aren't the most vulnerable, most disadvantaged and lowest income people are not paying the student contribution fee. I do want to review the student support, see how we can take more people out of the net of paying the contribution fee, and work is underway in that regard.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy. 1 minute.
Don't have a contribution fee. Now that's the standard we should reach, rather than having the highest fees. And, you know, the level of investment per student in this country for most categories of students is less than the amount of public investment into horses, right? Into horses. Now, I like horses, but I prefer students. and I think they're more important. And they add something over the lifetime, very significant, additional to Exchequer revenues and so on. So I think we need to dramatically up the investment. Now, where could you get it? Okay? And I'll give you a simple idea. I've said this many, many times. €700 million and rising is going in research and development tax relief to a handful of multinational corporations that are already supremely profitable. Has anybody done a cost-benefit analysis of whether that 700 million is better going to Google, Facebook and Apple, or better going into our public universities? I bet you we haven't, but we should, and I think you would find it to be a lot more socially and economically beneficial to this country.
Well, I like horses and I too prefer students, and that's why as Minister for Further and Higher Education, within the first 8 weeks in the job, myself and Minister Collins have made a number of measures and a number of initiatives to significantly increase the supports going to students. The model that we have in place at the moment ensures that those on the lowest incomes, those most at risk of disadvantage, do not pay student contribution fees, and we nearly have a situation where nearly half of our students aren't paying a contribution fee at all. I want to look at how we can build on that. I want to look at how we can build a sustainable model. I want to look at how we can build a sustainable model based on public funding. There is a review due back, which we've commissioned with the European Commission, which is due back at the start of next year, that will provide us with a pathway as to how we can avoid this issue that, in my view, political cowardice across the divide has avoided for far too long.